Learn about a disease which strikes children suddenly and carries the constant threat of devastating complication and what you can do to help. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on the 2004 Walk to Cure Diabetes, and we're visiting with Rhonda Weatherford, the chairperson or organizer of the walk. Good morning, Rhonda. Good morning. Thanks so much for coming back in. It was 2 months ago we were at Francis Marion. Obviously at that point we were 9 weeks from the event, and it's now this Saturday.
Yes, we're excited. A lot of busy things happening.
Golly, Rhonda, I know. You've got to be just either on the top of the world or thinking, I've got so much more to do in the next 5 days.
I do. I'm excited and exhausted and excited all in one time.
I know. What are all the steps that are leading up to this Saturday? Obviously, the registration's at 1. The walk actually kicks off at 2, but there's still a lot of ways that viewers can get involved if they're not yet involved.
Right. They still have a chance. We have a little thing that we say, 5 days, 2 people a day, $10, and they can make their free T-shirt and their free massage at the walk. You still have time. Just ask a friend or family or co-worker. There are so many different ways that you can do it. And make your checks out to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation.
Okay.
Tax deductible.
It's tax deductible. That's great. Sure. And if people are given cash, it's such a, any amount, anything they do, they can still get a receipt for that. And in Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, they wouldn't want to write JDRF. They just want to write out the full thing.
They can do JDRF.
Okay,
that'd be fine.
great.
Short, a lot easier to do.
Absolutely.
We stamp it the same way. It doesn't matter.
That's great. That's great. What's it been like, Rhonda? This is your second year. This is the second year of the walk.
Right.
This is obviously your second year involved, but the inspiration goes back to late 2001, I guess, the real inspiration.
December of 2001, when my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 juvenile diabetes. And that's where I guess I started this mission and joined in with the chapter in Palmetto, chapter in Columbia. I contacted them after Haley was diagnosed and came out of the hospital. And we started it then and got a group of families and parents whose children were diagnosed, got them together and incorporated some businesses, local support there, and that's where we took off. Right.
And last year, y'all had a aggressive goal and not only hit that goal, but beat it pretty substantially.
Right. Last year, our goal was 25,000. We reached 50. So this year, we have hopefully we can get to it, and anything near it will be great, 75,000.
Wow, is that right? 75,000, a good 50% over last year.
Right. We're on our way, though. We're getting close. We have more than doubled our corporate sponsorships this year. And we've run out of sneakers. We're trying to find more sneakers, and we have people selling the paper sneakers, like the hearts that you see everywhere.
Right.
We have the paper sneakers everywhere in the PD area. So we're on our way.
What has been the best type of fundraiser leading up to the event? I know y'all had a huge golf tournament a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago or so.
That's it. That has definitely been the best. Color Time, Bob and Nan Kogler of Color Time put that golf tournament on out at Trace's Golf Course. And we had probably 130 golfers that day. It was a beautiful day.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of sponsorship there. They had an auction at the end of the day, auctioned off several things, so all the proceeds went to the foundation, and they'll be added into our walk, so that's really going to boost us up a lot.
That was 12,500. 12,500. Golly, that is fantastic. Well, Bob had been working on it like gangbusters.
Right.
I mean, really putting a heck of a lot. And the PD Pride were involved?
Right, they were involved.
Or the Florence Pride, I guess.
Florence
right.
Pride,
Florence Pride.
yeah. And each of the golf teams, we had 4-man teams, added a Pride player that got to go as a 5th man with each one of them.
Right.
So we had all the Pride out there, and their wives were out there bringing the drinks out to the golfers. Better Blue was out there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. And speaking of Better Blue, you've got some great sponsors, not only platinum sponsors like Better Blue, but 2 incredible presenting sponsors this year.
Right. We were thrilled with that because last year we had 1, and they moved down to the platinum level, and so they were still on board. But this year we have Dr. Mark Lawhorn, and we have McLeod Health as our presenting sponsors. And then our second level is the Platinum, Better Blue, and the Palmetto Community Health Network. That's the network of area hospitals that group together. And then we have several other levels that have been Carolina's Hospital.
Right.
Piggly Wiggly has been really big on board, and Eford, the car dealer.
It's difficult to be involved in health or health support services in the PD and not be involved in this walk this year.
Right. We have so many health people, the professionals, the CDEs, the Certified Diabetic Educators in the area, who help the people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes live on a daily basis. And they're very involved. We have some of them on our committee, both from McLeod and Carolinas. So it's been a tremendous joint effort on a lot of people's part.
Where are some of the other walks, of the JDRF walks throughout South Carolina? The one in Columbia is not, if not the largest, one of the largest, not only in the state but in the southeast. It's a monster.
Right. They had their walk in November, and they had 4,000 walkers and raised, I think the end total was around $560,000.
It's incredible.
Yes, it was wonderful, wonderful.
It really sets the stage for great growth, and I know this, of course, again, is the second year for the PD Walk to cure diabetes. There's a hope that obviously y'all look to expanding down onto the Strand next year and possibly wrapping in the Eastern South Carolina Walk or some way to denunciate that the tie between the two communities, because there's some great locations. Francis Marion again. Stepping up to the plate.
That's a beautiful campus,
Yeah.
and they have been so gracious to let us do it. It's beautiful, and I think that a lot of the children that are coming out there that are type 1, the closer they get to college age, the better that place looks. It's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been very efficient in helping us. They set up for us. Just a wonderful group of people to work with at Francis Marion.
And when you say children that are type 1, break down real quick, Rhonda. Either talk about it from your daughter's perspective, from Haley's perspective, or just to give the field, a broad field of type 1 diabetes. When you talk about type 1, what are the other types of diabetes that folks could have?
There are two major types, and actually a third one that's been kind of thrown in there. Type 2 diabetes is usually adult onset, but unfortunately with our lifestyle, it has encroached in the children right now, and it's at epidemic proportion. There are about 18 million Americans who have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 is when the pancreas cannot produce enough insulin to keep up with the demands of the body. It still does produce it, but not enough to keep up with the demands. There are things that people can do with type 2. They can monitor what they eat better, they can exercise, and they can do something about it. Whereas the type 1 is a different story. It almost sometimes should be called a different disease, because it's when the pancreas quits production of the insulin.
There's no insulin.
No. It doesn't produce it anymore. And you need that insulin to unlock the sugars to release to the body for energy, so your body will go. And when you don't have that, it's not going to go anymore. And type 2, sometimes they become a type 1 when it's gone to the point of totally burning out that production of the insulin in the pancreas. They would become what they call 1.5. But the type 1 is the most severe type of diabetes, and you have maybe 5 to 10% of all diabetics who are type 1. And
5 to 10% are type 1. The rest would be
type 2.
Wow.
Right. And they can usually they can do something about it if they catch it early enough. Sadly, sometimes they don't catch it until the destruction or the complications are already there. And there are signs and symptoms, and that's what I think that hit me out of the blue, because it was not in my family, it wasn't my husband's family. And when Haley was diagnosed, there were signs that independently you wouldn't be concerned about. She lost 20 pounds in 2 months, which was a huge concern. But we would have never thought diabetes. Her vision became blurred. She was extremely thirsty and going up several times in the night to go to the restroom. Appetite was all over the board. Nausea was one of the last signs, because your blood sugars are supposed to be between 80 and 120. And when she was diagnosed, she was 700.
Oh, my Lord.
We were put in the hospital with that and put on an IV and spent about a week in the hospital.
A whole week?
Yeah. Well, she had an extra complication because she was given insulin. There are a couple different types of insulin, several different brands now, but one of the insulin she was given, she had an allergic reaction to, a preservative in it. Took them a couple of days to figure out that, because it is very rare. It's not very often that they run into that. I think she said the drug rep said that she was about the first one in 6 years to have that reaction.
Is that
So
right?
her name is up there at the top right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we did get that situated, and she's taken 2 or 3 shots a day. A lot of children now starting out take 4 shots a day at least because the progression of the pump that they have. You hear so much about people being put on the pump.
Mm-hmm.
And now the pump is a huge option that they want to get them right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, they put them on about 4 shots a day starting
Mm-hmm.
out.
And this pump, for instance, is something that you could wear around your waist, or you could wear it on another body part?
Well, you wear it like a pager. The
Right.
pump is actually like a pager, and you hook it to your belt or your skirt, and you have a calf with a larger needle that inserts it, and you have to change your site maybe 2 or 3 days, every 2 or 3 days, whereas a shot, you were taking 3, 4, or 5 of them a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a plus. It's a bigger needle, and it does hurt when they change it.
Mm-hmm.
But that every time they eat, what they call bolus up, and the insulin is reacting with the food that comes into the body, and it automatically is a reaction there. So they have pump malfunction sometimes, which is a concern because if something happens and the insulin isn't getting to the body, they can go into ketoacidosis really quick and diabetic coma. So they really have to watch it. But the pump has changed so many lives, and that's due to the research and the funding for the research.
And where Haley is right now,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind sharing with the viewers where she is in this now 2.5 years in, or 3, 2.5 years in, exactly. Where is she now?
She is what they call coming out of a honeymoon phase. Honeymoon phase is when you've been diagnosed and your pancreas is sporadically producing some insulin until the complete shutdown of that production. So when your insulin is, your body is producing a little bit more insulin, plus you've given her insulin with a shot, you have an added amount that you couldn't predict, and it causes your blood sugars to drop low. And when the more insulin you have in your system, the lower your sugars are, and the lower your blood sugars go, you're more apt to seizures, and the higher they go, the diabetic coma. Haley has been very fortunate. She's only had 1 seizure so far. It's one too many for me, but yet she's had it, and she had that at school.
And the impact, of course, on you and your husband Mark, as well as your daughter. I mean, it is a family disease. It affects one, but it truly affects the entire family and the community writ large. I mean, it affects everyone around
Right,
it.
everywhere, and not only the family. We have a 7-year-old son, and he tells Haley what she can't have and what she can have, and he's starting to read labels at 7 years old. He's trying to read labels, and I think it's good for all of us to learn how to do that. You have to get up in the night and check them. If they go to bed low, and we always have to give her a snack, whether she wants to eat or not. You're having snack time, and so yeah, it does affect the whole family, and it affects the extended family and friends. She's at the age, she's a teenager now, and she's doing youth trips and things like that. So anytime she goes off, there are a lot of special things that have to be taken care of and prepared before she goes out.
Part of the problem is, I was reading a little bit about JD or about type 1 diabetes, is that the children or adults even later, and I know one of the persons that highlights the fight against type 1 diabetes, Mary Tyler Moore,
Right.
who's had juvenile diabetes obviously for much of her life, for 30 plus years.
Right.
But part of that aspect is the children or the young adults or adults look normal.
Right.
And so there's not the outward appearance of a disease or something that affects them on a dramatic basis. And so I guess in that instance, it's so much more difficult oftentimes for the children because they look normal, they just don't feel normal.
Right, and it's hard in school, too. They look perfectly healthy, look just as good or better than the next person, but there's a war going on inside of their body that can't be seen. And some of the complications of it at school, your blood sugars get too high, they get highly irritable, they do not feel well. Or if they get too low, there's lethargy, and the teacher might think, well, they're sleeping in class, they're not getting enough rest, or the teachers really have to be educated and aware of the signs and aware of the problems in order to take care of them, because they're not lazy, they're things that are physically affecting them that have to be addressed right there on the spot.
That made me think about a couple of quotes. What's it like to have juvenile diabetes? Some of the kids, there was a Brian Pitt, age 17 in Florida. I passed out in math class on my first day of high school. Kids all thought I was on drugs, and the teacher didn't do anything. I woke up on the floor. They sent me to the office. Apparently no one remembered that I had diabetes.
Right.
That aspect must be, I mean, in all these stories, if people don't start to understand how serious juvenile diabetes is, I might go blind and never make my dreams come true. And that aspect, or each of those quotes from each of the children, could all be encompassed in daily conversations you possibly have with your daughter or her friends who may be affected with diabetes. I mean, this is not only a mission of Rhonda Weatherford, her husband and family, but a heck of a lot of folks, a lot of the viewers in the PD, southeastern North Carolina, as well as the Strand.
Right. There's so many stories out there. Every family who has a child with it, or even adults. I mean, these type 1 children grow up and they have families, and they still have to deal with it. It never goes away. And yes, there are so many stories in schools and in daily life. We were very fortunate to have gone to Columbia to hear an islet cell transplant recipient. She's one of the first 300 to have a transplant. So now she is no longer diabetic. That's where the research has gone. She is on anti-rejection medication, but yet she's not having to take her shots anymore. So that's the exciting part, and I think that's the driving force for all the families, because they know that a cure is really out there. It's really within reach. And that's what motivates us. We want it here quickly. I tell her endocrinologist at MUSC in Charleston, we only have 3 years left before she goes off to college. I don't want her to go until she's cured. So we have a strong mission here.
Absolutely.
And it is attainable.
And the other great mission and the exciting aspect is we're 5 days from the walk.
Yes.
75,000 is the goal. Let's hope y'all not only hit it, but beat it again as substantially as you did last year. Let's get that number, 843-629-8224.
Right.
If a viewer called the number, no one was around, could they leave a message just to get a phone call back to find out what they could do to still get involved?
Sure. Tell them to leave me their name and number, and I'll give them a call right back.
Okay. What are some of the things of the viewers that are already involved are doing right now to raise funds leading up to this Saturday's walk?
Families have sent out letters. We had a kickoff in January. I talked to you before that kickoff, I believe. And they sent out letters telling their story and asking for donations, telling a little bit about the research. And people have been so gracious in sending in donations for it. So that's going on. We have sneaker sales going on. You can see sneakers in many stores. We also have, within different corporations, within their larger corporations, they have department competitions. We have candy sales, big old huge jar packed full of candy, and you pay to guess, and whoever gets the correct number can take the candy home. Of course, that's more sugar off the streets for us, but anyway. They've also had bake sales. We have one preparing to do a car wash, and not only the golf tournament, which was a huge thing for us. A lot of different things are going on right now, and wrapping up, but still have time to do that.
Rhonda, if you wanted to make a donation, and they knew this was the only walk going on in the community they're aware of, if there's not a walk in Laurinburg or Lumberton or Whiteville, but they wanted to be involved, where would be the best place that a viewer could send a donation if they couldn't be there this Saturday for the walk?
To P.O. Box 5300.
5300.
And it's the PD Walk to Cure Diabetes.
Okay.
P.O. Box 5300, Florence, 29502.
29502. Okay, P.O. Box 5200.
5300.
5300, thank you. Bad ears today. Well, the excitement, of course, getting so close to the walk and knowing that a heck of a lot of folks can't be there. Do you still want folks to come out even if they can't walk, or if they've had problems, they just can't?
We have entertainment going on. We have Jay Miley of Charleston Recording Studios coming up, and he's going to be performing guitar. And we have an area quartet. It's the Kevin Gray Quartet. We have Miss Teen Florence that's going to be there doing a couple of ballet numbers. So we're excited to have her. The Shriners have a huge air castle that the children will be able to jump up and down in and enjoy. We'll have, after the walk, we'll have a hot dog dinner that Piggly Wiggly has provided. And Pet Dairies has donated sugar-free ice cream for us.
Great.
So we're excited about that one. We have the Better Blue Water, and Pepsi is out there.
Right.
We have the entertainment. We have a 1-mile walk for those that can't do the whole 3, and then the 3-mile for the whole entire walk. So there are different options. In Haley's letter, she told her senior friends that if they want to come out and support her, don't want to walk, that's okay. Just come and enjoy the entertainment.
Absolutely. And that important aspect is whether a walk's happening here or it's happening in Oklahoma, the funds are still being used to help support JDRF. And
Right.
I think I saw since 1970, it's around $600 million that have been applied to research to find a cure to diabetes. And of course, the most severe is type 1.
Right.
But even if you could only find a cure to type 2,
Right.
just the 90% of Americans that it affects
Right.
would be a dramatic step. What are some of the advancements that have occurred over the last 4 years since JDRF kicked off?
So much has gone on. When I've talked to some of our people that are on our committee, and they were diagnosed 40 years ago, and they had to go to the hospital and wait 3 hours for a blood sugar test. And now they prick their finger and do it in 5 seconds right there and keep a monitor of it. In 1922 was the first time a child ever received insulin and lived. It was ball game over before that, and so much has advanced. The pump, they have something in the pipeline, contacts that have a fluorescence in it, and they have a meter that they shine on it, and it'll read the blood sugars. That's not out yet, but it's coming. The glucose watch, it's not non-invasive things, so they don't have to prick their finger, because generally the type 1 has to prick their finger about 6 to 8 times a day to monitor their blood sugar levels. And we have a little one that was 2.5 years old. She was just diagnosed 6 months ago. She's just turned 3, and her mom says trying to prick her fingers like tackling a bobcat.
Yeah,
Right,
sure.
yeah, and the little girl runs from her. But this is going to be part of her life, and hopefully the things that are coming up with the funds for the research, ultimately we want the cure, so we don't want to stop until we put ourselves out of business and have that cure. But there are a lot of things happening. Islet cell encapsulation is a new one, where they withdraw islets and they encapsulate it in some kind of a sac. I'm not medical, so don't hold me to these things, but this is what I learned over the past few weeks. They encapsulate that cell so that the insulin can be released into the body, but the T cells cannot attack it. And this is an autoimmune disease. And so those T cells can't attack it, and they're going to be able to use that as, I think that's a very, very promising thing. That's going on in Alabama right now. So that's exciting.
So a lot has happened.
Yeah.
JDRF has done a heck of a lot.
They sure have.
To fight to find a cure.
It's the passion of a few parents that started that in 1970. Sat around the table, and it's gone international. It started out as JDF, the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, and then they really focused in on total research, so they changed it to the JDRF. Now they've had the I on the end of it to say international.
Right.
It's gone across the world.
One of the great things I saw is 85 cents of every dollar of virtually every year is going to research and education.
Right. We are very lean. Everything that we do, especially in the PD walk, when you have a chapter, you have a budget and you have employees. But everything that we're doing here with our area walk is volunteer. Everything to put the walk off is donated. And our walk is really going to be our big celebration of what we've raised to add to the pot.
Absolutely.
To get it closer.
Absolutely. Rhonda, we got 2 minutes. If you just
okay.
had a minute to share with somebody the most important aspects for these 5 days leading up, would it be that anyone can get out there, anyone can support, you can find a way even if you can't walk?
Right, you can. And anything, my little bit and your little bit, all put together, comes up to a cure. Eventually it's going to come up to a cure. They can bring in the money. They can send in the money. They can let somebody know, and also let people be aware of the signs and symptoms, and just to look at their children and watch and be aware that this is a possibility.
It's a family support group. Whether you can be out there this Saturday, 1 p.m. registration, 2 p.m. kicking off the walk as a family for all the folks who are fighting diabetes on a regular basis, type 1 or type 2 or 1.5, make that effort to support the PD Walk to Cure Diabetes this Saturday. Get out and support Rhonda and her family, Haley, and everyone who's going through this on a daily basis. Rhonda, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Juvenile diabetes is a disease which strikes children suddenly, makes them insulin dependent for life, and constantly carries devastating impacts potentially on the body. This is something we need to recognize. This Saturday's Walk to Cure Diabetes is one step in the chance to find a cure to diabetes. Call 843-629-8224 to learn more. Get out there this Saturday. We need your help.